To start, could you share a little about yourself?
I am a very average Singaporean, born in the 80s in an average income family. Throughout my formative years, I was an average student who was able to graduate with a business degree.
You describe yourself as average across the board, background, academics, income. Yet here you are, redefining your life path in midlife. Do you think Singapore's culture of measuring success through academic and career milestones made it harder for someone like you to feel seen or valued earlier on?
I think you have correctly pointed out that Singapore's culture in measuring success through academic and career success made it harder, but not impossible, for average people like us. We were told to study hard, work hard, and get promoted. Indirect opinions are formed the moment you pass your name card around. We are judged in Singapore based on how far we go in the corporate ladder and how much we earn rather than the impact we create. Similarly, teachers naturally favor academically stronger students, often overlooking character and morals, which I hope our education system will address in the future.
You mentioned being in your mid-40s and working as an admin staff in a listed company. What has your career path been like, and how do you first come across the FIRE movement in Singapore?
I started my career in a foreign bank as a junior banking administrative staff and got a couple of promotions early on. Later, I switched to the healthcare industry, seeking more fulfillment, and now I work in a listed company serving the public. I was introduced to FIRE financial independence, retired early by my head of department during my banking days. He mentored me, but due to my income and family responsibilities, I felt FIRE wasn't achievable then.
It's interesting that your first exposure to FIRE came from a senior colleague, someone already planning his exit from the workforce. In a society where most people equate stability with lifelong employment until 65, what did it feel like to hear someone within the system talk openly about leaving it behind? Did it challenge your assumptions about work and purpose?
My head of department was unique. Back in the mid-2000s, early retirement wasn't a common topic. When he discussed it, I was just starting out, weighed down by expenses and obligations, so FIRE seemed like a fairy tale. Looking back, I regret dismissing it without proper research. I had an example in front of me, but let my ego get in the way of seeking advice.
You said you were aware of FIRE, but didn't think early retirement was possible for you due to your income level and family responsibilities supporting parents, insurance, education costs, etc. Many Singaporeans can relate to this. What made you feel that FIRE was not for people like you back then?
When my head of department introduced FIRE, he stressed starting early and saving at least 50% of income for investment after an emergency fund. At that time, after CPF deductions, parental allowances, insurance and student loan payments, saving 50% was impossible. When I talked to others, they dismissed FIRE as unrealistic unless you were rich, so I decided it wasn't feasible for me.
You mentioned that people dismiss FIRE as something only for the rich. That's a common narrative here where financial independence is often conflated with wealth, not strategy. Looking back, do you think Singapore's financial ecosystem makes it harder for middle-income earners to even imagine alternatives to the linear work until 70 path?
With hindsight, Singapore's financial ecosystem is actually fair, especially now. Previously, you had to buy 10 shares at a time, making it tough for small investors. For example, one lot of SGX shares would cost over 500-600. I didn't consider alternatives like budgeting or side hustles to speed things up. While private banking offers exclusive opportunities, the risks are also higher. I've seen mid-income earners build wealth through investing, but many lose more than they can afford.
Last year, you were diagnosed with early-stage thyroid cancer, a life-changing moment. How did you feel when you received the diagnosis? And what was going through your mind as you prepared for surgery and recovery?
When I first received my diagnosis, I wondered, is it terminal? How long do I have? What are my options? The specialist reassured me that the prognosis for early-stage thyroid cancer is excellent. My biggest concern was the cost, but my insurance agent assured me my coverage was comprehensive. In the end, I paid nothing out of pocket and even received a 6-figure early critical illness claim thanks to policies I bought years ago.
So much of our identity in Singapore is tied to productivity, being useful, contributing, not being a burden. When you heard the word cancer, did you also fear losing your role as provider or becoming a financial liability to your family?
Yes, I feared losing my role as provider, especially for my parents. Even though my sisters could step in, I didn't want to be a financial liability. My wife already has her own responsibilities, and I didn't want her savings or my parents' retirement to be affected. My sisters have their own families, so I didn't want to take away from them either.
You mentioned being fortunate to have comprehensive insurance coverage, including Cancer Guard, and plans with early critical illness benefits, which meant zero out-of-pocket expenses. Can you share how and when you decided to get these policies? Was it a planned decision, or did something prompt you to take that step?
From early in my career, I feared that illness or accident could leave me unable to provide for my family. I consulted a friend who is an insurance agent, and we tailored my coverage with basic medical, accident, and term plans. I review and upgrade my policies every few years. At 38, I saw a relative suffer the financial stress of late-stage cancer without insurance, so I upgraded to include early critical illness and Cancer Guard after learning about them.
Your foresight with insurance likely saved your financial future, but many Singaporeans rely solely on MediSave and basic integrated shield plans. From your experience, do you think we place too much faith in national safety nets and not enough on personal risk planning until it's too late? And on a related note, should financial resilience be taught in schools the way we teach CPR in PE class?
In my opinion, MediSave and basic integrated shield plans are not enough for major illnesses. You could still face large out-of-pocket expenses. This unnecessary stress can slow recovery. That's why we bought medical insurance for our parents, even paying the premiums ourselves. For example, when my dad had prostate cancer, private insurance allowed us to get faster surgery, which would have cost a teak otherwise. I'd also like schools to teach financial resilience, starting with savings and budgeting in primary school and debt management in JC.
Receiving a low six-figure critical illness payout is significant, especially during medical leave. How did that financial cushion impact your recovery and, more importantly, your perspective on life and work? What were you reflecting on during that time off?
I was lucky my company supported my medical leave, so I didn't need to use the payout immediately. It felt like striking Toto Group 2. Surviving early-stage cancer gave me a second chance. I became more appreciative and slowed down, even taking time to watch the fishes by a canal. Work is now just a means to support my family, not a source of honor. I'm considering a less stressful job and aiming to retire by 55 instead of 65.
You said work used to be about earning honor. That's a powerful admission. In a country that celebrates the kiasu grind and glorifies busyness, was there ever a point where slowing down felt like failing? And now that you've stepped off the treadmill, even briefly, do you think Singapore society is ready to accept enough as a valid goal?
I think it's slowly changing as more people in their 40s and 50s feel jaded. Many feel stuck because top management isn't retiring, blocking advancement. Some friends have had enough and started their own consultancies, finding new purpose. Younger people are also prioritizing happiness over high pay, like my friend's son who became a photographer in the gig economy. While it's not mainstream yet, this shift toward valuing enough is growing.
You made the decision to start your FIRE journey in your mid-40s, aiming to retire by 55. That's a bold move, especially for someone who previously thought early retirement wasn't feasible. What gave you the confidence to take this step now, and how are you structuring your financial plan to reach that goal?
When I received the critical illness payout, it was the largest sum I'd ever seen. I decided to invest it for monthly passive income rather than spend it. I sought advice from my insurance agent, investment group, and YouTube common themes were fixed income funds, dividend-paying ETFs, and REITs. I consolidated my scattered investments and realized I'd invested more than I thought. Some insurance premiums are now waived, reducing expenses. This February, I decided to pursue FIRE wholeheartedly, even if I fall short of my target.
You're not quitting your job, you're redefining your relationship with money. Given that many Singaporeans in their 40s are still paying off HDB flats or funding children's tertiary education, what would you say to someone who feels they're too late because of debt or obligations? Is there a way to pursue FIRE within responsibility rather than after escaping it?
For those in their 40s or 50s who feel it's too late, don't worry, you're not alone. I like the quote from Randy Pausch. We cannot change the cards we are dealt, just how we play the hand. My wife and I did an exercise to prioritize our top goals, calculate costs, and decide what to delay or cut. For us, it's paying off our HDB and FIRE. We use a staff housing loan to reduce interest and cut discretionary expenses like frequent staycations and food deliveries. We realized we were wasting thousands monthly that could go toward FIRE.
As someone starting later than many in the FIRE community, what practical steps are you taking now? Budgeting, investing, passive income strategies, or expense optimization to make this goal achievable in about a decade?
At the start of this year, I began an investment journal to track objectives, annual and long-term goals, funds invested, and dividends. Receiving monthly dividends motivates me to find more capital. I consolidated my investments into income-generating ones. I set my personal allowance at $1,200 a month, regardless of salary increases, and any excess goes into savings and then investments through DCA. Bonuses and increments also go directly to investments. I'm exploring side income opportunities to boost capital.
You've set a strict 1,200 monthly personal allowance and stick to it regardless of salary increases. That's discipline. But in a city where social spending, dinner outings, birthday gifts, school events can quietly erode savings, how do you navigate peer pressure without isolating yourself? Is there a way to be frugal and socially connected in Singapore?
True friendship doesn't need expensive maintenance. I usually host friends at home or meet at coffee shops for meals and coffee, preferring one-to-one conversations. For events like birthdays or funerals, I try to fund them from my allowance, but if needed, I dip into previous savings. It only happened once when I had 2 funerals and a charity run in 1 month, totaling about 400.
Supporting your parents and managing family commitments remain important. How are you balancing your new financial goals with ongoing responsibilities? Are there conversations or adjustments you've had to make within your family?
Supporting my parents and family is a non-negotiable part of my plan, so those expenses remain unchanged. My wife is fully supportive of the FIRE project. She started investing early herself. We frequently discuss ways to cut expenses, like reducing food deliveries and cooking more at home to increase our investment capital.
You mentioned wanting to start a YouTube channel to document your journey and help others, especially those who face critical illness and are considering a slower pace of life. Why is this important to you? And what kind of stories or lessons do you hope to share?
When I received my early critical illness payout, I couldn't find resources on what to do with it. There are likely thousands of people in similar situations who want to use the money meaningfully. I'm not an expert, but by sharing my own journey, I hope to inspire others to use their payouts in ways that add fulfillment and purpose to their lives.
Finally, many Singaporeans in their 40s and 50s are juggling jobs, family, and health concerns, feeling stuck in the grind. What would you say to someone who thinks it's too late or too hard to start thinking about financial independence, especially after a health scare or major life event?
We may have missed the best opportunity to invest young and reach financial independence by 40. But let's not miss the next best opportunity, which is today. Even if you can only invest $10 a week, start for passive income. It's better to start small than do nothing. Even if you retire at 65, your dividends can be a bonus to supplement your retirement.
As we wrap up, is there one final piece of advice or one thing you wish you had known earlier that you'd like to leave with others who might be on a similar path?
The race to financial independence is a marathon you run with and against yourself. Don't use others' achievements as your benchmark. If you remember nothing else, just remember this. Don't stop believing.